So you just got your Rails cube up and running, and you want to know how to start developing your first application in Ruby on Rails. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Don't worry about understanding all of the concepts, just follow along so you can see how fast and easy you can start developing apps with the power of Ruby and Ruby on Rails framework. We'll go back over all of these concepts in depth in later tutorials, but for now just follow along so you can get started building your first app. It is important to understand that with Ruby and Ruby on Rails, all you need is a simple text editor and a command prompt or a terminal window. But we're going to use an IDE, which is an integrated development environment. And for that, we're going to use what's called Genie. So if you go up to the top of your Rails cube, but here you'll see a little menu with a little Genie lamp. You'll click that and you'll launch Genie. Genie actually has the text editor and the terminal built into it. So if you go all the way down to the bottom left here and click terminal, you'll notice that it brings up a terminal, and we're in a directory called Rails apps, and we're in an untitled document here. So now we're ready to start our Rails app. So for this app, we're going to start a contact manager. It's going to be a very simple app just to show you how you can get started developing. So the first thing that we'll want to do is start a new application, and we do that with the Rails new command. So we're going to type in Rails space new and our application name. So this will be contacts, and you simply hit enter. And what's going to happen is that Ruby on Rails is going to go and it's going to configure and build a framework for a Rails application. So in the beginning, all frameworks for the Rails applications are the same, and we'll take a look at that in a second. It's just going to take a minute to go ahead and compile and bundle everything. We'll go over the bundle command later. So you'll notice that when it's done creating the application, it's going to tell you to run bundle install. You can hit escape here and it'll bring back the command prompt. Once you hit escape, you're going to do CD, which is change directory. You want to go into the new directory of the app, so CD contacts. And you'll notice you're now in the contacts directory. So we'll run bundle install. Enter. And that's going to go out to the internet, and it's going to make sure that you have all of the Ruby gems, which are little pieces of code that you can insert into your program to make things a little bit quicker and easier. We'll go over Ruby gems as well. Okay, once it's done bundling, you'll be back at a command prompt, and in order to check and see if the application got built and everything was bundled correctly, what we can do is we could start a command called Rails S, which stands for Rails server. So we're going to do Rails space S, and we're going to hit enter. So Ruby on Rails comes with its own built-in web server that you can use for development, and it uses port 3000 as its local port. So once the server boots up, you'll see that it says up and running, and you're going to go up to the top and you're going to launch the web browser. And if we go to localhost :3000, we should see that our Rails application is up and running. So whenever you run Rails S, it's running in the background, and when you see this, you know that you got a brand new Ruby on Rails application that was configured and up and running. So for now, we're just going to minimize that browser. And if you hit Control C in the terminal, it will stop the web browser. So we're going to hit Control C and we're back to our command prompt. You'll notice if we go back to the browser and refresh, it's going to tell us, oops, there is no website here. That's just because we have halted the web server. So we'll turn that back on when we're going to take a look again. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to scaffold the framework of our application. And basically that means that we're going to build a skeleton application and a database table for our contacts. The way that we do that is we'll do Rails space G for generate, scaffold, because we're going to scaffold a full application. This is a built into Rails. It will do some pretty amazing things right off the bat with the scaffold command. And we're going to scaffold one instance of a contact. So we're going to do contact, and just to keep things simple, we'll just say each contact will have a first name, space last name space phone number space and an email address. We'll hit enter, and Rails is going to go, it's going to actually build a database table using SQLite. That's the default for a Rails application. So SQLite is going to go in, it's going to create a whole bunch of files. We can take a look at those in a little while to show you the directory structure that it created. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple command called rake db migrate, which we'll go into a little bit later. Rake space db, and we're going to hit enter, and what that's going to do is it's going to actually build the database table. So in the scaffold, it just builds the instructions to be able to build the database table, and now it's actually generating that table. And once that's done, we can start the Rails server again. So we'll do Rails space S, enter. And you'll notice that the server is up and running again. And this time we're going to go back to localhost 3000, but now we have a contacts. You'll notice now it says listing contacts, and it gives us our field names, first name, last name, phone, and email. Doesn't look pretty. In later tutorials we'll go over how to make this look a little bit better, and if you haven't already, you might want to pick up a web dev cube to learn some basic HTML and CSS for styling. But the meat and potatoes of the application is already done. So first thing we can do is go new contact, and it built all of these entry screens for us, or what they call a CRUD, create, read, edit, and delete screens. So here we're going to say the first name will be John Doe. Just put a phone number in of 555-555-5555. Email we'll just do test@test.com. And we'll hit create contact. It will tell us that that contact was created successfully, and it shows us the results of the contact that was created. We can then hit back, and it'll go back to the main screen listing out the contact, and you'll notice that it adds some buttons, show, edit, and destroy. Let's go ahead and create another contact. This time I'm going to just put in, I'm going to leave everything blank, and I'm going to hit create contact, and you'll notice that it actually, if we hit back here, let us create a blank contact, which we don't want. So how would we fix that? Well, let's go back over to the Rails application. We can leave the server running for right now, and we're going to go into the model of the contact, and once again we'll explain models in a little bit. We're going to go File, Open. We want to make sure that we go to the Kube folder and then go to Rails Apps, and then you'll see our contacts. So this is all of the files and directory structure that a Rails app consists of, and most of the stuff that you're going to want in the beginning will be in this app folder. So if we go to apps, you'll see a models, and you'll see the contact model, contact RB for Ruby. So we're going to open that contact model, and all you need to do is, let's say that we want them to have to put in a first name in order to create a contact. So you're going to hit space, we'll tab over, and we're going to do a command called validates presence of, and we're going to do a space and a colon and the name of the field that we want to validate. So we're going to do first name, because that was the name of the first name field, and we're going to hit Control S to save that. We're going to go back to our contacts application, we'll refresh this, and now when we go into create new contact, if we try and create a contact, you're going to notice it gives us, hey, there's a warning. First name cannot be blank. This was all done by Ruby on Rails. We didn't have to do any of this. In a regular traditional programming environment, you need to take into account all of this validation. That's what this is called. You need to put in the styling. You need to configure your messages. Now with Ruby on Rails, this all comes out of the box for you. You can override and configure and customize everything, but just realize With a couple simple commands, Rails new, Rails generate scaffold, rake db migrate, and we were up and running. We have a small database application that we can further build on, and we will in later tutorials. Hope you guys enjoyed building your first application with Ruby on Rails.